continue to work to try to get that in a timely manner to you.
Thank you.
Yes. Anything else? Okay. Let's see. Assigning roles, timekeeper. Anybody feeling like they want to be the timekeeper today?
I can do that, Joey. This is Carrie.
Thanks, Carrie. It looks like Tyler is down for recorder. Tyler, are you still good with that?
Yes, absolutely.
Perfect. What about the chat box monitor?
This is Katie. I can do it.
Perfect. Thanks, Katie. And then Jamie, you're down for waiting room, so you've done an excellent job already. Perfect. Okay. Jay's, were you going to take Julie's first update with just kind of checking in, how we doing with our actions, with our things?
That was not me.
Oh. Did she ask anyone for that part? All right. We'll just be flexible here and I will run through that. So how we're doing with provider portal, any feedback on provider portal? Have you guys been able to access it or haven't had the chance yet? I see Jody's head shaking. Yes, she has. Okay. Anybody else? All right.
This is Jennifer. I just know that there was something that in an earlier meeting we were looking for today, and something, a historical memo, and another director was able to find it on the portal. So I haven't really gotten in there to dig for anything, but it was nice to know that when we were looking for something that there was a place to go and it was actually there.
Perfect. So that's the goal, right? To be more efficient and to have things accessible when needed. So please just keep that feedback coming. What about the kids turning 21 process that we were following? I was unfortunately not at the last meeting, so I'm going to rely on all of you who were present. Okay, so we will.
I think, Joey, the question was a little bit of, is maybe CSPs don't understand the process.
Oh.
2 years ago, we used to fill out that survey.
Yes.
And now we don't do that. And so we're unsure of who's doing that. And if we have people that are students that are just being served by a local school district, meaning they just get their funding through there, who might be submitting those names to you as upcoming needing funding, and who's submitting that portion of what they might need, I think was maybe the question.
Okay, and I know we clarified, or we talked a little bit about that, Pam, you, myself, and maybe a few other people in a smaller group, just as far as how those projections go into the budget. So yeah, we definitely have an opportunity to clarify that process a little bit. So if that's good with everybody, we'll move that one and carry over for an action item for next time. And we can do that as a standalone. Okay. Perfect. Okay. And then director updates from me. So looking at the HGBS settings, which again is not new to us, but it is time to spend a little time revisiting the statewide transition plan. And so as part of that is also looking at the timelines that are in the current plan. We need to make some adjustments to those based on COVID. And so that's some of the work that we need to begin. I believe we've talked previously about pulling together a group of folks who might be interested in participating in any of that. And so I would just throw it out there that we will be beginning this work. It's probably not going to be till after session, but we need to be revisiting the timelines specifically in the STP. So we don't need to make a commitment today, but just if you have an interest or if you want to think on that, just let us know, because we will need a work group to focus on that with us. So The next one is continuum of care. So obviously in session, this is a big one right now. It's part of Senate Bill 64, specifically the diversion centers. And so not really a ton of updates specifically on that, because of course it's tied to appropriations. So waiting on that. But aside from those things, you know, out of the Align report, we've analyzed the Align report. We've created some an action plan, I guess, if you will, based off of those. I think it's 18 recommendations. We currently have 15 of those that we are actively working on or have a plan to further explore and work on. So we are making some progress on that. We'll likely, once we know what comes out of session, need to have another conversation with this group about continuum of care and what that means for our system. So again, this is just a brief update. This is going to need to be something that we talk about for some time. So that's what that is. Shared living, just a few updates on that. You guys know we've been working on doing some internal review and identifying inefficiencies on our end. And so we're to the point where we've identified those things. We've set out kind of some new steps and ways to follow up on our opportunities that we've identified. And so I met this morning with the shared living service providers and talked through a little bit about what are those inefficiencies that we've seen. I was able to get some really great feedback from that group. So again, thank you to those of you who participated in that conversation this morning. Teresa, do you have a question? Sorry.
Nope.
Okay. And so we visited, we have a good action plan for moving forward. There will be a work group that's assisting the division with further defining and updating the guidelines. They were last updated in 2018. So we will be working on that in the coming weeks with the goal of having that process, having completely gone through the process of improvement with shared living service by the end of the fiscal year. So lofty goal, but I think we can do it. Do you guys have any questions on shared living? Okay. If you have, I'll ask this group the same as I asked this morning. If you have inefficiencies or issues that are kind of a thorn in your side about the shared living process, please let myself and Gus know that. We know as a division, we likely have blind spots to some of those things, and we've done a lot of internal review to identify them. But if you have additional ones, please let us know. We are serious and we say we want to make this process more efficient. So I would just, again, ask for that feedback as you feel comfortable sharing. So. All right, Jays, are you doing number 3 for Julie?
Yes, that would be me. So I think that we had possibly briefly mentioned that we were going to be collaborating with the University of Missouri, Kansas City, more commonly referred to as UMKC, to develop essentially what we're talking about are competencies for case managers and family support coordinators. And the intent of doing that is to comply with the administrative rules of South Dakota that were promulgated back in November, I believe now of 2019, to address some training requirements that we had put in place for both family support coordinators and case managers, choices case managers. So we are in a partnership with, I guess, a subset of the University of Missouri, Kansas City, which they refer to as a Life Course Nexus, to build this internal capacity. And so at our upcoming meeting in March, we are planning to have the team with UMKC on our agenda. It's probably going to be about 20-ish minutes, and they're essentially going to talk about what they're doing and why they're doing it. And sorry about that. And so they're going to be talking about that and essentially what the intent is of the work that we're doing with them. So we have met internally and discussed kind of an action plan, and they're going to come and talk about what the involvement or what we are looking for from the system. And so we would anticipate, because we want to kind of walk through the development of this together. So we would anticipate the participation from case managers and our CSPs on the development of this platform and these competencies. So they'll be coming next meeting to talk about this. And so we wanted to bring that forward so that you guys could extend the invitation to those that you might feel would want to hear the message. And so there will be opportunities presented to kind of, I guess, participate in some work groups, one on the development of the competencies, and then another opportunity to focus on some components of the ISP to ensure that it's compliant with the rules that were promulgated. And so we would expect that case managers would be interested in participating in these work groups, as well as possibly the internal support coordinators at our CSP agencies. So again, I did kind of want to bring that forward and talk about that they'll be coming to the next meeting. So if you did want to possibly invite additional people within your agencies, that you could do so. And I think, what is that? Okay, yep. So that would be on our next stakeholder update meeting on March 17th. They'll be present for that. Are there any questions? Okay.
When you talk about internal capacity, are you talking about?
Jace, this is Dan Cross. What were the ARST rules specifically, just so that we can take a look at those? Do you have that handy?
I can't rattle those off my head. Oh, sorry. Yep, Dan, you were kind of breaking up. I think I got the gist in that. Okay. You were asking for the rules. We could send that out with the agenda, or not with the agenda, with the meeting minutes. I apologize. Would that work? Oh, I think Dan might have. Oh.
The microphone's on. Microphone's on.
Jays, I think that should be just what we do in order to proceed, is we'll follow up and make sure they're included in the meeting minutes.
Okay, thanks. Sorry, I wasn't sure if Nathan, if something else was coming through. So yes, we will include the specific ARSD in the meeting minutes, or and get that out. So I've got that jotted down. Katie Munson, I believe you were asking a question.
Well, I was just starting to think through what is, when you say internal, are you talking that this group will kind of develop the plan to develop, that sounds funny, to develop the competencies together then? Is that what this group is designed to do?
Well, I don't want to jump, I hate this term, but we always seem to use it too much into the weeds, because they are going to kind of describe what the role is during the meeting, but there would be the opportunity for some feedback and, I guess, piloting of the competency modules that are in development and customization for South Dakota. So that's one of the opportunities for involvement. And then the next would be the support in kind of the ISP piece. And so there's going to be two different kind of options, if that helps clarify that for you without getting too much into the detail that they're going to be providing during the next update.
Yep, that's fine. That's good.
Okay. Okay, were there any other questions? All righty. So I think the next agenda item is me as well. Or Julie, and me, or maybe now this one was actually me. So then another opportunity to provide input and feedback is the CSP and case manager roles and responsibilities document. Obviously, you know, we had gone through and identified kind of the who is responsible for what as we rolled out case management back in 2016. And so I think the document was most recently revised back in 2018, but we realized, of course, as time has gone on, and we now, I think, would think, you know, what is it now, almost 5 years later, it's probably a good idea that we would need to revisit this document just to make sure that it still flows appropriately, and I guess kind of jives with the way things are happening in practice, or maybe any changes that are needed. And so we are looking to identify stakeholders to participate in this short-term work group to review and recommend any updates to the document. And so we are looking for anybody who might be interested in that. Obviously, we would need collaboration from both our case managers and our CSPs in the development of this. So this would be a small group, definitely less than 10 people that would be taking another look at this document. And so just kind of putting the feelers out there if somebody might be interested.
Sharon Oyen from ABS is interested in being part of that.
Okay. I will jot that down. And
Jays, if possible, it would be great to have like a variety, because these were last updated in what, 2018. So maybe people who were part of some of the transition to case management, and then newer folks who maybe weren't around then. It might be good to have a variety of folks participating.
Hey, Joey, this is Rich from NHTC. We will send a representative. That'll be determined at a later date which of our staff members would attend, but we'll be on the working group if possible.
Jays, this is Jennifer in the chat room. We have Arlette Keller from Aspire that's volunteering to participate.
hey.
Can we have Mackenzie Yost from RHD be involved?
And I have to, this is Dan, and Dakota Abilities mentioned to me that they would like to participate as well.
Valiant Living would also be interested in participating.
And Joey, I think I wasn't here at the original creation of the document. Looks like we have Emily with SESDAC. So it seems like we're getting a variety, right?
Yes, it does. It seems perfect.
Okay.
So I just wrote all of those down from the chat room, and I'll just email them to Tyler for the minutes.
Perfect. Benchmark will have participation. I would think that Benchmark, RHD, New Horizons, and Lifescape would like to participate from the case management. So I think that keeps it about, I think we've hit about our 10 if that's where we stay. So I think that is good. And so we will take those. Katie's got the ones that popped up in the chat. I have some notes as well, so we'll make sure that we captured everybody. So then our next steps would be reaching out to the group, sharing the document as it exists in its current form, and then likely setting up some time to work through any changes that we might recommend.
Jace, this is Jennifer, and I was one of the providers that had suggested this exercise. I would just throw out there that for the group that's participating, that my hope is that we not only update the document and identify who's responsible for each particular role, but that there's at least some acknowledgement in the process that there are times when providers are not being paid, when someone's either out of our services, but there's varying work that is still being done. And so if, and some of this might go back to either the rate methodology or an other discussion with the department, but if the group can at least acknowledge that when there's responsibilities that are being assigned to one party or the other, that if that's a time where somebody's not getting paid, that we figure out how to address that, because that's happening in many different circumstances. And I think that it's kind of at least for me, the elephant in the room that we need to address, not just assigning things, but making sure that providers are getting reimbursed.
Okay, yeah, I think that is great feedback and something that we can definitely address. I think you brought up a great point that we obviously are, kind of in talks when it comes to our rate methodology. And a piece of that rate methodology, of course, is our waiver service definitions and what our expectations of the service definition are. And so I think that this is good timing to have that knowledge. So when we can consider that when we look at our service definitions. Is that what you were looking for, Jennifer?
Yeah, and if it's, due to limitations because someone's in the nursing home, or maybe they've recently passed away or whatever that is, that there's limitations with what Medicaid is going to cover under the waiver, then maybe we specify that, these are certain things that are going to come out of general funds, or who is going to be the payer of that if Medicaid isn't.
Okay, yeah. Definitely think that will be something good that can be brought forward from the review of the document. So is there anything else that you all would hope that we would accomplish through the review? Okay, hearing none. Again, we will, now that we've kind of got our participants or those willing to participate jotted down, then we will get that group together to meet and discuss with the intent of not just updating the document, but also kind of identifying some of the workload that is placed on either entity and how that ties into some of the rate methodology work as well. So that is all that I have on those topics. Thank you.
All right, I think I'm next. And this is going to be an interactive part of our meeting today. The division is looking at utilizing open future learning for some possible learning development. And we were curious because we're becoming more and more aware of different organizations that utilize that company. So if I'm going to launch a poll here in a few minutes, if you could go ahead and just respond to the poll whether or not you utilize open future learning. And then in the chat box, if you could go ahead and indicate your organization's name and how you utilize it. Some providers use it for onboarding staff, some use it for annual trainings. But if you could just indicate your organization's name and what you utilize Open Future Learning for. So I'm going to launch the poll and give you some time to respond, and then we'll go ahead and put it in the chat box, those other two things. All right, it looks like the poll has kind of stopped changing. So I think we have the representation of whether you're a yes or a no. If you haven't had the opportunity, I've seen some of them come through the chat on what you utilize it for in your organization name. If you haven't been able to do that, if you could go ahead and put that, but I'm going to end the poll for now and then let you continue to add in the chat and then let Jays go on to the next part of our meeting.
Okay. So the next piece would just, do we know what we expected to do before we meet again? So I have that we will include the specific ARSD in the meeting minutes for the case manager and family support coordinator training requirements, as well as the ISP. Those were the rules that were revisions that were promulgated that has prompted the work with UMKC, but I'll get the specific ones out with that. And then we have the volunteers for the work group to address the case manager and CSP roles and responsibilities document. So we will be sending out the document and communicating directly with those who volunteered to participate in that group, as well as then getting a meeting scheduled to discuss. And then I guess our charge to you all was to consider with the work that we are doing with UMKC, who you would like to possibly invite to the next meeting so that they could hear the information that's being presented by UMKC and decide how or if they would like to participate in that work. So please forward the meeting invite to anybody that you might feel is interested or would be appropriate within your agency. I think we have some stuff that is going to be on our next meeting as well, which Jamie, did you want to jump into that, or do you want, I can keep on rolling because some of my stuff is some of your stuff.
If you want to keep rolling, the only thing I have on there right now is the kids turning 21. But if you want to go ahead, I'll keep notes if you want to keep talking.
So yes, we have discussing, or I guess better describing what the kids turning 21 process looks like will be on our next meeting agenda. We also hope to have an answer about the POMs and the personal focus worksheet kind of crosswalk by the next meeting. And we also talked about anybody who might be interested in the HTBS settings work group and discussion. So that, in conjunction with the fact that we will have UMKC presenting at our next meeting, we might have a pretty full agenda. But are there any other meeting items that you would like added to our next agenda? Okay. Well then. There is a lot. Yes. Cover. Katie pointed that out in the chat that we do have a lot to cover at our next meeting. So we'll try to, I think, kind of push through some of the updates quickly, and so that we can hear from UMKC and Life Course Nexus. But unless there's anything else today, that would wrap up today's meeting. As always, if you guys have anything that you'd like to see on the agenda, you can certainly bring that forward to Julie Hand so we can get that added. But otherwise, this was everything that we had. Do we need to schedule for longer next time? That might be necessary. I think we will probably try to chart out the agenda and see what we're looking. I guess I could ask now if we maybe needed to have an hour-and-a-half meeting. So instead of from 3 to 4, we went from 3 to 4:30, right? Yep, 3 to 4:30. Would you guys be okay with that if necessary? Seeing a few nods. So, okay. So we will take that into consideration if we do feel like, because of the fact that we have the life course folks that are going to be with us presenting, that if we don't want to not discuss some of the other topics that you guys have brought forward. So if we do need to extend the meeting, we can certainly do that. All righty. But today it looks like everybody's getting back 24 minutes of their day. So hope that we all enjoy that. That's all we got. All righty. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.